Hello, how are you guys doing? I'm finally able to do my last presentation for the week. This is our art show. Are you guys excited? I'm going to be a tour guide and we're going to go through some of the famous paintings of Le Renaissance. Oh, I didn't even show my title. Le Art Show. That's what we're doing, Le Art Show. Sorry. Okay, it's not going to be very long. We'll be only a few minutes, but I want you guys just to see a few examples of the artwork from this time. I feel like I'd be shortchanging if we didn't at least look at some of the basics. So, very quickly, we're going to discuss the differences in the styles of medieval versus Renaissance art, and then I'm just going to show you some of the major artists of this time. It's again pretty simple, but let's just have some fun with this. Before we move into it, what I want you to pay attention to is this. This is an extremely important thing. I'd recommend writing this down. This would be very helpful on your test. But medieval versus Renaissance art. So let's just start with medieval over here. Typically, medieval art was almost always sacred, meaning Jesus, Mary, the angels, saints. It was always flat and two-dimensional, just real basic. The artists, again, this is before the Renaissance, they didn't typically receive credit for their work. There was just sort of somebody painted this, somebody painted that. It was anonymous work done. And there was usually an emphasis on spiritual stuff, the spiritual realm, the future, heaven, life to come. That was the medieval world. The Renaissance changes everything quite a bit. You start to see sacred and secular art. The word secular just means, it doesn't mean anti-Christian. Sometimes people think it's a bad word. Secular just means anything that's not explicitly religious. You could paint a tree, and that's secular. For example, painting a picture of me, that would be secular art. You have both of it, and more secular art in Italy than Northern Europe, but you still have an acceptance of it pretty much everywhere. Realistic three-dimensional art, you start to see some really cool innovation. You see frescoes and you see people experimenting with shading and three-dimensional imagery and some pretty cool stuff during this time. The artists became famous for their work. They became household names. Da Vinci, you've all heard of him, for example, or Michelangelo. These are people who became famous for their art, and it was okay to get credit for what you did. And lastly, an emphasis on the present world. It's okay to paint a beautiful landscape. It's okay to paint a tree, or it's okay to paint a king, or paint somebody, or paint a scene, of a city. It's okay to paint present physical things. Those things are okay. You don't always have to focus on heaven. So those are the big differences: a focus on the now, experimenting, and credit to the individuals, what we see in Renaissance art. So who are we going to look at to make sense of the Renaissance? Yeah, you heard that right. We're gonna talk about the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Now you're probably thinking, what the heck is this guy? Now you may not know this, but these four turtles were named after four Renaissance artists, as we're gonna see who they were named after today. So kind of a fun connection there. So these are the four we're going to explore, the turtles. So let's start with Leonardo, who's named after Leonardo da Vinci. By the way, I'm not making this up. This is exactly who the turtles are named after. You can look this up. But Leonardo is named after Leonardo da Vinci. Now, Da Vinci was, and by the way, you'll notice I have their corresponding colored headbands to their names up here, so doing you a favor there. But Leonardo da Vinci, probably, I don't know if he's the most famous, but certainly one of the most famous. And he was what you call a Renaissance man. And you hear people say that to this day, oh, he's a Renaissance man. That's basically somebody who's good at a lot of different things. Like, we all have a friend who's extremely good at, say, guitar, but that's all they do. But then we have friends who dabble in many different things, and they're actually pretty good at many different things. That would be a Renaissance man, somebody who's, or woman, somebody who's accomplished in many different fields. And I just want to show you very quickly two of his masterpieces. The first is the Mona Lisa, and we've all heard of this, we've all seen this, but this is a painting by Da Vinci. And I'm not an art historian, I don't know a lot of the cool backstory and details, but just so you can see and make the connection, Da Vinci painted the Mona Lisa. He also painted the Last Supper, and I actually have this painting. Yeah, the original. No, we actually have a copy of this painting in our house, and it's actually, I think it's a really cool painting. There's a lot of conspiracy theories. If you've ever heard of the Da Vinci Code by Dan Brown, that's a little bit before your time, but that book and movie, they basically have all sorts of conspiracies about like the shape between John and Jesus here. Is John a woman or a man? There's all these conspiracies that people have made up about the painting, but that doesn't matter. I will say this though: Jesus and his disciples would not have been at a standard European table. They would have been at a triclinium, which is like basically 3 couches in a particular arrangement, leaning as they ate. That was more the traditional Jewish way of doing things. So, side note. Okay, the second turtle slash artist, Raphael, who here you have Raphael Sanzio, I think I said that. And Raphael, we just know him as Raphael, but he painted sweet-faced Madonna paintings, and he also painted the School of Athens. So let's take a look at that. So he painted many different Madonnas. A Madonna is just basically it's basically a mother with the child, usually in reference to Mary. And so you have the woman with the child and several different poses, different women, but typically talking about Christ. And you can see here, this is literally called Madonna and Child with Book. So this is an example, and the sweet face of the Madonna is something that he was known for. Then you also have, this is one of my favorite paintings, the School of Athens. And there's a lot of speculation about this one too. But in the middle, we know for sure you have Plato and you have Aristotle. And these are 2 great, we've talked about them throughout this course. Plato was the guy who believed that ultimate reality is spiritual. And I wish I could zoom in on this, but I can't, sadly. But Plato's right hand is pointing upward. He's pointing that reality is up there in the spiritual world of the forms. And if you notice Aristotle, his right hand, he's pointing like this. He's sort of reaching out, saying that this world around us is reality. The physical world is the really real. And they both are holding books, which I wish you could see, but Plato's holding a book, and it says, if you're looking close, it's Timaeus. The Timaeus was one of his masterpieces, talking about what stuff is really made out of, and sort of his cosmology, where everything came from. Aristotle's holding a book, and it's the Ethics. That's perhaps his most famous book, where it's talking about what it lives to mean a good life. More speculation shows that you have possibly famous philosophers and scholars and doctors. Like these on Plato's side would be more aligned with Plato, and these on Aristotle's side would be more aligned with Aristotle. That's a lot of speculation there, but that seems to generally hold true by what I've seen. But in any case, fascinating painting. I really like that one personally. Okay, the third one is Michelangelo Buonarroti. I'm bad at pronouncing these Italian names. I'm so sorry. I'll have to look that one up for you later. But we call him Michelangelo is the point. Michelangelo, in 1508, Pope Julius II commissioned him to paint the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel. And in this 4-year project, he puts all sorts of parts of the biblical story: creation, fall, flood, redemption, and even a pretty horrible final judgment. And there's a lot of speculation about him painting people he actually knew in that scene. But that's for a different time. But yeah, you've all heard of the Sistine Chapel, I'm sure. And here's a picture. You can't really capture the whole thing in a picture. It's so vast. It's huge. There's over, I think, 300 figures painted in this thing. But just biblical stories galore and beautiful artwork. Again, it took him years to make it. But I can almost guarantee we've all seen the creation. And this is, I think, probably my favorite part of the whole Sistine Chapel is God creating Adam. So now you can make the connections there. Michelangelo painted the Sistine Chapel, and the creation of Adam comes from the Sistine Chapel. That's where it's actually at. It wasn't like a separate little painting. It was in the midst of all that other painting of the chapel. So I hope that helps. Okay, and our last turtle, Donatello. And the book just says Donatello, so that's good for me because I suck at pronouncing these names. But Donatello was a brilliant sculptor. He was known, whereas the other guys were more so. Well, Michelangelo was a little bit more diverse, I guess. But the other guys were looking at their paintings, but we're going to look more at the sculpting here of Donatello. And he sculpted David and the equestrian statue of Gattamelata, I think I say that. And this is basically, it's not the stone statue you're thinking. This is the statue of David as a young shepherd boy. And this is one of his more famous pieces. And then the other one was, he was the first person to do an equestrian statue, meaning a person on a horse, full-on sculpture of it for a long time. I think if the book says since the Roman era. So I guess up to 476. But impressive. And as you can see, it definitely earned him some acclaim. So there you have it. Those are the 4 Ninja Turtles / Renaissance artists: Leonardo, Donatello, Michelangelo, Raphael. Which one's your favorite? I'm curious. Which turtle's your favorite and which artist is your favorite? Or are they the same? So thank you guys for your time. And do pay attention to these things because our test is this week and I will probably be asking you some questions from this. Peace.